In a troubling incident that highlights the darker side of law enforcement, an innocent man falls victim to corruption within the police force. This shocking encounter unfolds as unsuspecting individuals face unwarranted arrests at the hands of corrupt cops. Don't forget to subscribe to us and join us as we delve into the disturbing narrative of an innocent man who, despite his innocence, becomes entangled in a web of misconduct and abuse of power. This incident sheds light on the challenges society faces when those entrusted with upholding justice betray the very principles they are sworn to protect. On October 16, 2021, Officer Paul Guab and Officer Holly Harris from the Dallas Police Department initiated a traffic stop involving Sylvester Hayes, a single father on his way to pick up breakfast for his children in Dallas, Texas. Despite Mr. Hayes spelling his first name as Sylvester, the officers mistakenly believed they had apprehended a different individual named Sylvester Hayes, whose first name was spelled Sylvester. This confusion arose because the latter was wanted for a family violence warrant.
Come on, step out for me. I'll explain it to you.
I didn't give you permission to do that.
I know. Step out. I'll explain everything.
No, sir. Tell me why. I didn't give you permission to open the door or none of it.
Right now, you are being detained. Come on and step out.
Hey, yeah, I was very
Come on and step out. Come on. Come on and step out. You're gonna get tased. Come on and step out.
Pulling out a tape?
Come on and step out. Come on and step out. Come on and step out.
Bro.
Step out.
What are y'all? Man, hold on, bro.
Come on and step out.
Come on, man.
Come on and step out. Come on and step out.
What are y'all?
Come on and step
Y'all
out.
pulling on me for what? Hold on. Y'all, I didn't give y'all permission. I didn't give y'all permission. Bro, that's my phone, bro. Hold on. Bro, hold on. Hey, bro, come get. Bro, this is my gun. Bro, this is my, bro.
The officer extends into the driver's side window, unlocking and opening the door. A directive is issued for Mr. Hayes to exit the vehicle due to detainment. When Mr. Hayes declines to comply, the officers exert force while he remains seated. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, governing Texas, has consistently ruled that the Fourth Amendment is implicated when a law enforcement officer reaches into the interior space of a vehicle. This precedent was established in cases such as the 1993 U.S. v. Riles, where the court concluded that a state trooper breached the protected space of an individual's car door without a search warrant. More recently, in the 2007 U.S. v. Meredith case, the court affirmed that opening a vehicle's door or penetrating its interior airspace constitutes a search, necessitating reasonable suspicion prior to such an action. Consequently, the court would likely determine that Officer Guab performed a search of Mr. Hayes' vehicle under the Fourth Amendment by reaching inside. Furthermore, Section 38.3 of the Texas Penal Code specifies that an individual commits an offense if they intentionally prevent or obstruct a person known to be a peace officer or someone acting in a peace officer's presence and at their direction from effecting an arrest, search, or transportation by using force against the peace officer or another. While Mr. Hayes' mere refusal to exit the vehicle may not meet the threshold for resisting under this statute, there's a possibility that a court could interpret Mr. Hayes' actions as resistance if he pulled in the opposite direction while the officers attempted to remove him, although it's challenging to ascertain from the footage if any force was exerted. Moreover, even though Mr. Hayes did not appear to be under arrest when the officers attempted to remove him from the vehicle, a court could potentially determine that he obstructed the officers from further transportation. Section 542.251 of the Texas Transportation Code asserts that a person may not willfully fail or refuse to comply with a lawful order or direction of a police officer. In the 2023 case of Garcia v. Berra, the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas concluded that a reasonable officer could have probable cause to arrest an individual for violating this statute when he failed to comply with multiple lawful commands to exit his vehicle. As previously discussed on ATA, the Supreme Court has consistently maintained that officers may order individuals to exit their vehicles during a legitimate traffic stop without requiring additional suspicion. Therefore, it is likely that a court would conclude that the officers had probable cause to arrest Mr. Hayes for refusing to step out of the vehicle if the underlying stop was supported by at least reasonable suspicion of a traffic violation.
What am I being detained for, man? Stop. What am I being detained for?
If you let us tell you, we'll tell you. Shut up.
Tell me right now. What am I being detained for, man? Help! Help!
Stop.
Help! 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 They hurting me! They hurting me!
84 out with us as well. And start us on record, please.
I don't know, felony.
Get in the car. You're getting this because you're acting this way. This is 100%, and I'm not your. I know I'm.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you're acting stupid.
Y'all don't even understand. Y'all in big trouble.
Go for it. I don't care.
Y'all in big trouble. You are under arrest.
Following Mr. Hayes' struggle against the officers' attempts to place him in the back seat of the police vehicle, they eventually restrained his legs and informed him that he was under arrest. Although it remains unclear whether Mr. Hayes was initially under arrest during the officers' first attempt to place him in the cruiser, his subsequent actions could potentially support a conviction for resisting under Section 38.3 of the Penal Code, which criminalizes intentionally preventing or obstructing a peace officer from effecting an arrest, search, or transportation by using force against them. As we discussed earlier in this episode, the term using force against a peace officer has been defined by the Court of Criminal Appeals of Texas as violence, physical aggression, or an immediate threat thereof in the direction of, into contact with, or in opposition or hostility to a peace officer. Applying this definition, a court would likely conclude that Mr. Hayes' struggles against the officers constituted resisting. It is noteworthy that the lawfulness of the arrest or search is irrelevant in determining whether an individual resisted under Texas law. Even if a court deems the transportation or arrest of Mr. Hayes as unlawful, he could still be convicted for resisting, as explicitly stated in the statute. However, Section 931 of the Texas Penal Code provides justification for the use of force to resist an arrest or search if the peace officer uses or attempts to use greater force than necessary. Therefore, Mr. Hayes might potentially defend against a resisting charge by arguing that the officers were using excessive force beyond what was necessary for the arrest.
All right, let's get him up.
All right.
Leg restraints are off. Ready? 1, 2, 3, up.
Y'all are in big trouble, man. Y'all are in big, I can't even get up, man. My fucking get up. Damn, man. Do you see how they doing me?
Bro.
Do you see how they... Ah.
Scoot back. Scoot back. On your feet. You got the gun?
Yeah, and this
Goes
goes
in
right
his right
pocket.
pocket.
And he kept going like this too.
Right side.
He kept reaching. Yeah.
No, I did not.
After processing Mr. Hayes' driver's license through the Dallas Police Department's database, Officer Harris appears to realize they have apprehended the wrong Sylvester Hayes. In the 1971 case of Hill versus California, the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of an arrest when officers mistook an individual for another, despite the arrestee's protests and proof of mistaken identity. The court reasoned that if police reasonably mistake one party for another and have probable cause to arrest the first party, the arrest of the second party is deemed valid. Similarly, in the 2014 case of Hine versus North Carolina, the Supreme Court acknowledged that searches and seizures based on mistakes of fact can be reasonable, allowing some leeway for government officials in enforcing the law. Despite the potential unreasonableness of assuming Mr. Hayes was the sought suspect without verifying, courts have historically granted officers broad leeway in determining what constitutes a reasonable mistake. While Mr. Hayes may argue the officer's arrest based on his similar name was unreasonable, prevailing court interpretations make it challenging to prove a constitutional violation. The officer's failure to check the police database before taking action suggests a lack of diligence, potentially impacting Mr. Hayes' life significantly, including losing his job and home. The interaction underscores the gap between constitutional requirements and the standard of good police work. In assessing the parties involved, the Dallas officers receive a failing grade for their failure to confirm Mr. Hayes' identity before escalating the situation, employing unnecessary force during the arrest, and pursuing firearm charges despite deeming the firearm legal. Mr. Hayes receives a C+ as he was detained in a case of mistaken identity, but failed to comply with the officer's orders and physically resisted, even though some resistance might be justifiable.